So if you've been around the world of marketing, of launching websites, you've probably noticed that WordPress website hosting can be a huge hassle. And if you're like me, you're just kind of the average user, you're not a coder, you've probably run across the problem where you have like just a tiny little issue on your website, and you're trying to find a solution. You may contact support from your website host, you may look at forums, things like that, and it's really hard to find the answer. And when you finally do get the answer, you're given a line of code and you have no idea what it means or where it's supposed to go. And honestly, I think in 2020, just managing your own WordPress website shouldn't be this difficult. So why is hosting with WordPress this challenging? Well, it's not really anybody's fault per se. WordPress is an open source platform, which means that by its very nature, it's not hosted on a specific server. So you have to go find someone and host it on their servers, and that's what your website host is. So basically your website, which is your property, is living on rented land. That's what WordPress website hosting is. And that just comes with some unique challenges. So why is WordPress hosting such a pain? Well, it kind of comes down to that WordPress is an open source software platform. And by its nature, open source means that there is no specific server that's owned by the same company that's making the software that the information is going to live on. You have to go take your software and install it on someone else's server. And that comes with some unique challenges. So it's not a complete done-for-you package like Wix or Squarespace or one of these other website builders. And that just means that there are more technical steps involved in order to get a website launched on WordPress. Once it's up and running, it's pretty easy to use, but a lot of challenges are presented when you have to get it live on a server. So to make matters worse, the business model of most WordPress hosting companies leave you to solve your own problems. So what does that mean? So if you have like malware on your site, like your site got hacked, it's your responsibility to clean it up. If you have problems with your SSL certificate, like your site is showing that you have insecure content and therefore it's coming up in your browser bar as being insecure, that's your responsibility as well. If you have performance issues, like your website is loading slow, that's also your responsibility. And so a lot of these budget hosting companies, they may point you in the right direction for how to solve the problem with your WordPress site, but they don't go and fix it for you. And so why is WordPress hosting like this, where there's so much hands-on things that even average users have to do? Well, it really comes down to cost. All these different tweaks and settings on the server level, they take time, they take effort. And so in order to keep costs low, a lot of the budget hosts that you might encounter, like the GoDaddies and the Bluehosts of the world, they leave you to your own devices for managing your WordPress site, which is not fun for a lot of people. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. I don't think that you should have to manage your own SSL and deal with those issues. I don't think that you should have to clean up your own malware. I don't think that you should have to know how to install and run a complicated security plugin. I don't think you should have to run your own backups and know how to reinstall those backups at the server level. And I don't think you should have to know how to code in PHP just to get basic things running on your WordPress site in 2020. So it's amazing to me that more people haven't figured out that, hey, people are going to keep building sites on WordPress. Why don't we just make the process a little bit easier for them? Because this is obviously the preferred solution for a lot of people. I think over 30% of the web runs on WordPress right now. So over 30% in number of total websites is on WordPress. So this is the cPanel of a common WordPress hosting system. It's on Bluehost. And there's a ton of features in here, and a lot of people just aren't going to even know what all these different features are, like Git version control, Postgre databases, maybe like WordPress error logs. A lot of average users just don't need access to this stuff and probably are never going to use them and wouldn't really benefit from having access to them. So how does Flywheel unsuck the whole process of WordPress website hosting? Well, Flywheel realized people are going to continue building websites on WordPress, and a lot of these people are going to have low to average technical knowledge. And what's going to happen a lot of the times is that people aren't going to know what to do when they encounter a complicated cPanel hosting system or like their file manager. And so if they have a problem, they're not going to know what to do. Then they're going to get frustrated, and then guess who they blame? The website hosts themselves, right? Even though it's not really the host's fault, still it's on their system, and so people are going to get frustrated at the host. So Flywheel probably thought to themselves, that is the leaders of Flywheel, hey, here's an opportunity, right? We can offload the technical aspects of managing a WordPress website host, make it similar to if your website was on like Wix or Squarespace. That means we can create a little bit more revenue, and all of these technical tasks that a lot of people hate doing will just be outsourced to us. So what makes Flywheel the best hosting option for the money? Well, Flywheel is going to be the least amount of hassle out of practically any WordPress website host, at least that I've encountered. And so a lot of those technical tasks you're just not going to have to deal with anymore. They're just going to be gone. So on the Flywheel system, you do not have to run a caching plugin. That's taken care of at the server level. You do not have to run a security plugin. Flywheel takes care of all the security tasks. They will even clean up your website if there's a malware injection on your website. And you do not have to run a backup plugin or know how to reinstall your own backups. Flywheel creates a 30-day history of your website, and they store that on their servers, and they just do a great job with their backups. If you ever need to get your website back and there's a problem, their backup system, from what I've seen, is flawless. But what really does it for me is the support of Flywheel. Their support is amazing. I honestly do not know how they do it. Their response time is incredibly fast. I usually do it via a submission on their website, and I get an email back, and they deal with any problem that I have on my websites super promptly. And unlike a lot of website host companies, they will actually like do work for you. Like if you say, hey, I have a problem with this plugin, they'll probably actually log into your website, look at what the problem is, and in a lot of cases, they'll even fix it for you. So I've never seen this level of service with any website hosting company. And for that reason, just because I feel like they've got my back, they've pretty much got a customer for life. So on the Flywheel system, you are going to pay a little bit more. I think on their tiny plan, which is their lowest price plan, you're going to pay about $15 a month. And then the next plan up, also for one website, is $30 a month. And that may seem like a lot if you're coming from a plan that's like $4 a month on Bluehost or $2 or $3 on GoDaddy. But a lot of people that are managing businesses and they have a website, they are just not going to care, because all of these technical tasks that they hated doing anyway are going to be offloaded, and that could save them, $50, $100 a month in their own time. It could save them thousands of dollars if, let's say, on one of those cheaper plans, their site went down and they lost revenue. So for me, it's a cost-benefit thing with Flywheel. Even though I'm the one that's managing websites for my clients, it's saving me time and therefore money every month. Features, features, features. Who doesn't love a good feature rundown? So what are some of the features that are great about Flywheel? Well, it's completely contained virtual private servers for one. So your website's resources are isolated from anybody else's website. If you're on a cheap budget plan, you're probably on shared hosting, which means that the websites that are also on the server can affect your website. And so the folders are not completely isolated from each other. With a virtual private server, they are. If someone else is doing something goofy on their website, it's not going to impact your website. Security features. So security is done for you on Flywheel. I don't know exactly what they're doing with security, but I just know that I haven't had any problems with any malware or getting hacked or anything like that since being on Flywheel.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Caching is done for you on the Flywheel system, and they do a really good job. I believe it's called a persistent cache. And so a lot of times when you make a change on a website, your cache may not catch up in time. It may not be refreshed or something like that. And so you've changed something in WordPress as an admin, and it's reflected to you, but then it's not reflected to the users because your cache didn't get updated. Well, with the persistent cache, you don't have to worry about that. Anytime you make a change on your website, it's going to show that change, even though caching is enabled for your users.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
One of the features I really love about Flywheel is staging. And so having a staging environment is just vital for pretty much any website that's trying to do anything of significance online. It is great to have a staging website. It's basically a replica of your website, and you can test changes on that version of your website. So it's not the live version, it's this other kind of test version. And you can make sure that everything's working before you push those changes to your live site. Or what I like to do is I'll just make the change on the staging site, and then I'll make the exact same change on the live site, because if it works on the staging site and they're basically exact replicas of each other, then the changes on the live site will work as well.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
How about a reliable 30-day backup history? I mean, if you're doing backups with a plugin, do you really honestly know even how to reinstall that backup if your site should have a problem? That's hard enough for a lot of people. And so Flywheel's backup system is super easy to download a version of your website and store it locally. And it's very easy to restore a prior version of your website from your backup history if you need to. So I've tested it out. It actually works. Everything runs completely tip-top.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Another feature would be easy SSL installation. So the SSL installation process, super simple. With Flywheel, again, they pretty much, everything is offloaded to Flywheel for getting your SSL up and running, so you can have a secure site. That's especially important if you're going to do anything regarding transactions on your website, like taking credit cards.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
I mentioned before free malware removal. So if you have any problems with your site getting hacked or having some sort of a code injection that's bad, they will take care of that for you. They're that confident with their security.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
There's also the option for a free CDN, and I haven't used that myself, but I know for a lot of bigger websites that have traffic all over the world, that can be important. And so that's no additional cost if you're on Flywheel.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
And I don't know if this is a feature or a lack of a feature, but it's a good thing, and that's not having the need for the backup plugin, the security plugin, and the caching plugin. It's just a reduced hassle for you in managing your WordPress site.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
One last thing, and this is more for developers, is that Flywheel has a local development platform that a lot of developers really love, and that's called Local by Flywheel, and I believe there's a version that's called Local Lightning or something like that. My computer wouldn't run the old version at least, so I haven't installed that myself, but I know a lot of people like to develop their websites locally, and it's very easy to push those local changes to your live site.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Okay, so we're just going to go through a brief walkthrough of the back end of Flywheel. And I'm not going to show you all the sites I manage because that would reveal too much personal information. So we're going to use tritheos.com kind of as our proxy site here. So your Flywheel backend will probably look something like this. And they've really reduced just the overall amount of options that you need to access to just these different areas: overview, stats, backups, advanced, performance and billing. There's really nothing here for me, and then staging. So overview, this is where you take care of anything related to the domain and making sure the domain settings are pointed to your website. And it's also where you would activate your SSL, and then you could put your site in privacy mode if you needed to. Okay, so that's the overview. Your stats is kind of where you would find kind of how many server resources are being taken up by that one website. So you wouldn't want to use this as like overall analytics for your website. You'd want to use something like Google Analytics for that. But this is how many visits Flywheel is counting towards the quota that you have in your plan. So you can see that this website is taking 6,173 visits per month, at least in this cycle, out of 53,000 or so for all my sites, and then I have up to 150,000 visits per month. Backup, so this is the 30-day backup history that I was telling you guys about. It is nice because it's not a complete black box. It actually tells you kind of how many posts and how many pages, plugins, and comments were in that version of your website. So it can kind of give you some clue if you need to revert to one of these versions. It's kind of giving you at least an overview of what the site looked like at that point. And then from here, you can just click download or restore. And like I say, that process is super easy and it actually works, which is great. Okay, next let's go to advanced. So in advanced here, we've got a couple things, and this actually does come in handy. You can flush your cache. I don't know why you really need to do that because it is a persistent cache, as I understand. But sometimes things might get stuck and you might need to flush the cache. And that can be helpful, especially when you're making a lot of changes. If you get logged out because you failed to log in correctly, you can reset the login attempts here. I've never had to use that. You can export your error logs here. Again, I've never had to use that either. This is where you'd enable staging. I highly recommend that you have a staging version of your site. In development mode, you can disable caching completely while you're developing, so that the changes that you see would be, the changes that you make would be reflected instantly. And then this is something that you're going to want to do, forcing HTTPS. You're going to want to do this once you get your SSL certificate installed. And then we have the CDN, and we have an option for WP debug mode. And then WP cache. This is if you want to use a different caching plugin from the one that Flywheel provides. They have a list of allowed caching plugins that they will let you use on their plan. And you can enable that right here under WP cache. Then you can also do a couple things over at the right sidebar. You can update your version of WordPress. You can roll back. You can ask for an upgrade in your PHP version. Looks like I need to do that. And you get a little bit of data on your database, and you can even manage your database from the screen. Performance and billing. I don't have this enabled because I'm on this bulk plan. It doesn't have performance insights, but that's something that some people want. And then this is kind of similar to the overview area. And this just has kind of the same settings that we saw for the main site, but it's just for your staging version. So you can pop on over to your staging version. You can launch your staging changes. You can also reset your staging site so it reflects your current live site right here. And that is really, really handy to have and reduces a lot of stress. Okay, well that's it for our Flywheel WordPress hosting review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something good out of it. We are affiliates for the Flywheel program, so if you want to get on Flywheel hosting, we'd appreciate it if you use the link down below. We could be affiliates for literally anybody else, but we just really feel like Flywheel is the best system that's out there. There are some other competitors that are kind of the upscale hosting plans that are probably also very good, but Flywheel is the one that I'm most familiar with. Again, I get awesome customer service and just low hassle WordPress hosting from Flywheel. So I don't feel like anybody could possibly beat them. Maybe that's possible. I don't really know, but I'm probably not going to switch anytime soon. Thanks for watching another episode of Cover Your SaaS. I'm Matt, and we will catch you for the next software review.